Ladies and gentlemen, Saudi Anti-Fraud Association would like to welcome its member, anti-fraud professionals, and those interested in the monthly meeting that titled is the third-party use of encrypted email service a safeguard or a red flag. Today, we have two best professional speakers. First is Miss Lucrezia Tunisia. She is a threat intelligence expert with years of experience in the energy sector. Also, she is a certified security expert and a certified open source intelligence expert, and a member of Italian Association of Corporate Security Professions, AIPSA, and the nonprofit association Osenta Italia. And the second speaker is Mr. Antonio Rossi. He is a certified fraud examiner, manager at Forensic Practice of KPMG Belgium, and co-founder and member of the board of the nonprofit association Osenta Italia. So welcome, Mr. Antonio and Ms. Lucrezia.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah barakatuh. Shukran, and thanks for having us today. It's a really big pleasure to be again with you. It's always a nice experience. And today with Lucrezia, we would like to present the results of our research that we published 1 month ago on the Fraud magazine. That is the magazine published each 2 months by the CFE. And so I think that will be a good opportunity for us to share with you, so with other colleagues, our research, the results of our research, and the same time understand this topic. So if the use of encrypted email services is by organization is a safeguard or a red flag. I will just try. Okay, so I think that we can skip this slide because already Mr. Mohammed did a really brief and of course good presentation about us, about our experience and CV. And so I will just leave the floor to Lucrezia that can start to present today's agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Today we're going, as Antonio was saying, we're going to present our recent research. We will start with the presentation of the objective of our article. We will provide you with some useful definitions to understand the objective. Then we will talk about the methodology that we use. And we will present afterwards the key findings and a case study that, according to our opinion, is really useful to better get the importance of our piece of research. Then, of course, we will have time for Q&A, but we would like to keep this interactive. So if you want to add something or ask something during the presentation, please feel free to do so. Okay, so starting with the objective, let's start with a use case useful to better get the objective of this research. Let's assume that we are we work for a startup company in a textile sector. It is called Fabric Fiber, and of course we have many different suppliers and third parties involved in our manufacturing process. So due to the consistency and numerosity of these third parties, our internal auditor is stressing the fact that we must perform a relevant due diligence activity in order to verify the transparency and the reliability of these third parties. So we are a member of the security department. We are in charge of due diligence activities. So we decide to set up a proper process of investigation in order to investigate these our third parties. And we start by retrieving information via open sources analysis. And these analyses result in finding that many of our third parties, many of our suppliers have a weird behavior because they use an encrypted mail service like Proton as their main point of contact. As security members, we of course know that this might indicate a specific interest of the company to topics like anonymity and security in communication, information security, etc. But we also know that many criminals nowadays use this type of services to conceal their illegal activities. So what shall we do? Shall we consider this as a red flag or an added value in our research? And this is what we try to address with our research in order to better understand if an extensive analysis of the main email address of a company might be considered as a key risk indicator in our third-party due diligence processes.
Thank you, Lucrezia. Just in order to set the tone of our presentation, I think that it is important just to share some definitions. So we can start, of course, to define what is a third party. So the third party is an individual or organization who have some interaction with the organization for different kind of reasons. So, for example, in this figure, we can see that, of course, there are some contractors, subcontractors, partners, investors, financial entities, private clients, suppliers in general, business agents, and so on. So we can call all these kind of entities and individual third parties. According to many research in this sector, of course, one of the main risk that is dominating this kind of individuals and organization third than the organization are the third party risk. And in particular, the 80% of organization try to use the integrity due diligence as a mitigation measure that is very useful in order to prevent any kind of misconduct, fraud, corruption, and so on by these third parties. Of course, we should understand this risk because it's very important risk in terms of, for example, reputation. Is a relevant risk in terms of supply chain, for example, because if we have some contracts with the not very trustable third party, and this third party is supplying a lot of strategic stuff for our organization, of course, we can have some problems in terms of supply chain, for example. At the same time, if we have some business agents that is not very trustable in terms of reputation, we can have some problem maybe linked to corruption issues and so on. So it's very important to perform some background check, integrity check, screening, because, you know, this kind of mitigation measures have a lot of names in order to prevent this kind of risk. And in particular, in the last years, another very interesting trend is related to the ESG focus, because nowadays it's really important to understand if the third parties with which we have a lot of businesses are compliant than the ESG framework. So from an environmental point of view, from a labor point of view, so in terms of, for example, slavery and so on. So it's really important to perform a very pervasive due diligence in order to discover any kind of issue related to these third parties. So one question for you, please, you can answer in chat. Is an agency worker considered a third party? What do you think? Feel free to answer in chat. Oh, we'll wait some seconds more. Okay, so yes, I think yes, no. Okay, so in general, an agency worker, yeah, we should consider him, her as a third party, of course, because it's different than yeah, an agency worker, we should consider an agency worker not as a third party because he's is similar like an employees, a general employees. But of course, we need to screen the worker agency. The worker agency is our third party, so of course we need to perform integrity due diligence on the work agency, but not on the agency worker, because the agency worker is similar as an employee, and so an employee is not a third party. An employee is an internal to the organizational context. So we don't need to perform any kind of we of course need to perform something, but we don't have, it's nothing related to the third party risk. So is this the main reason? Exactly. Okay, the second definition is related to primary email address. So we, in our research, we use a lot this term. So primary email address. Mainly, the primary email address is the primary email address that is used by an organization. For example, in the official website, or that is reported in the corporate report, and so on. So is a first point of contact for an organization. So for example, in general, the first point of contact for an organization is an email address that starts with info or something like that. And of course, is reported in an official website, and maybe it depends, of course, from the jurisdictions, on the company report, annual report, and so on. Here we have an example from the annual report for related to Washington company, and in this case we have the a primary email address that is this one as Thompson archivelifescience.com that was reported in this annual report, and so is a primary email address, so the first point of contact. In this other box, so at the bottom, we have this from an official website of one company that use, for example, a Proton domain, so a Proton email address, so an encrypted email address, as a first point of contact. So in this case, Aqua Ita Est at proton.me. This is, you know, the first, the primary email address for this company. I would like just to introduce one point that, of course, after we'll stress more and more, Lucrezia. Of course, the second example, so the example from the official website where is reported the proton.me email address, doesn't mean that it's necessarily critical or a red flag in this case, you know, because it's not forbidden to use an encrypted email address. Of course, it's legal. You can use an encrypted email address, but of course, it looks strange. So we should, of course, investigate more. For example, in this company, if we want to just sign a contract with this company as a third party, we should you know, investigate more and more in order to understand maybe the transparency of this company, who is the owner, the shareholders, some economic and financial situation, the reputation, and so on. So it's just maybe a red flag, but of course we should investigate more.
Okay, so an encrypted email service. What is? It is a service that use end-to-end encryption to protect the content of the message so that it can ensure that only the legitimate recipient can read what I wrote. End-to-end encryption is a method used in networking to guarantee private communications between two parties because it converts a message from a plain text format to a ciphertext, preventing potential eavesdroppers, sniffers, from decrypting the message. So information security is based on three basic concepts, which are integrity, availability, and confidentiality of data. And encryption basically ensure the third one, because it ensures that only the legitimate recipient can read the content of something, because only the legitimate recipient has the key to decrypt the message that I wrote. So, starting from the definition, we have, just to keep this interactive, a question for you. And actually, we've already answered to it, but in your opinion, is encrypted email address always considered illegal? Please feel free to answer in the chat.
No one answer.
No one is answering. Okay, so I will answer for you. Of course not. So it is a legitimate technology, completely legal, and it is also extremely useful because, as I said, it ensures confidentiality of data. Of course, it, as always with technology, it depends on the usage that people do of this technology. What we discovered during our research is that nowadays many criminal organizations and terrorists use this type of service to conceal their communication and prevent law enforcement to collect proofs for their investigations. So as always, it depends. Okay, so our research was conducted between June and July, and it consisted basically on two steps. The first one was the identification of the main encrypted services provider, which are the nine that you see in the table in the slides that were selected due to their importance, let's say, and characteristics. After the identification of these services, we performed a research. Okay, a research on a global level, basing on open source database to retrieve the companies that use the 9 services that we identified as their main email service. Of course, it is important to stress the fact that we didn't perform a research with the objective to be comprehensive, because we encountered many limits. First of all, the time span is from June to July. That's the first limit. The second one is that we only selected 9 domains and not all the domains that are present. And we used open sources data. So this means that all the limits that always apply to open sources data can be also applied to our research.
And maybe if I can add to this point, another reason related to that this research doesn't meet the requirement to be comprehensive is related to the different jurisdiction, because of course we have a different availability of sources and information in relation to different jurisdictions. So also, I don't know, in Saudi Arabia, if when the one company decide to submit, you know, the Incorporation Act and so on, if need to submit also an email address. So if it's not, you know, mandatory, of course, we can't catch that kind of data, for example. So this is, of course, the main reasons for which our research, of course, is not comprehensive. But of course, it highlights some good point, I think. So the key findings. Once we completed our research activity, so we collected all information, we tried to clusterize our data, and in particular, we started to think about the geographical distribution. And we tried to do 2 exercises about the geographical distribution. The first one is just related to account. So just to analyze in which country there was a higher presence of email organization with the encrypted email. And in particular, with this first exercise, we discovered that more than half of the company, so 67%, is located in Brazil. This is, of course, an interesting point. Till now, we don't know exactly the reason why, because also we tried to perform also further investigation, analyze maybe in depth this situation, this phenomena, but we didn't identify a good reason about that. And then also we evaluated some other countries like Russia, Lithuania, Hungary, Estonia, Germany, that also recorded a substantial number of organizations that use encrypted email services. If we try to do another exercise also related to the geographical distribution, so to try to calculate the incidence of this company on the total number of company incorporated in these countries, of course, the result is maybe a little bit different because for example, Brazil goes from being at the top of the ranking to the 6th place. And we have Serbia, Georgia, Democratic Republic of Congo, Macedonia, and Estonia that reported a higher incidence of company on the total of incorporated company that use an encrypted email address. For example, about Estonia, from my point of view and my experience, I can say that, yeah, can be possible that maybe a higher number of company decide to use an encrypted email service in Estonia because a lot of companies working in the fintech sector. And also from media, we can see that a lot of financial scam, crypto scam, investment scam like a Ponzi scheme and so on, or maybe Ponzi scheme 4.0 and so on, are maybe related to this country in this year. So maybe can be a interesting relation, but we don't have, of course, enough proof, but also we didn't perform a in-depth investigation about that. Then another interesting correlation that we did was with not only geographical distribution, but also with some quantitative data, and in particular, the average turnover and the number of employees. This is why. Because of course, from the average turnover and number of employees is we can of course understand the size of the organization. We can understand the operational level of the organization. For example, an organization can be just a shell company, and so we will just have not a lot of employees and a very low turnover, for example. And in this case, the 67% of the organization in the sample were established between, very recently, so between the 2019 and 2022. And in relation to the turnover and the number of employees, mainly the annual turnover recorded was below 20,000 euros, so very, very low. And also the organization reported a very small organizational structure in terms of number of employees. So of course, these are three, because turnover, number of employees, and date of incorporation are three other interesting red flags that if we try to relate to the encrypted email, of course, you know, the organization start to look a little bit critical. So, you know, when if you want to start a contract with an organization with, of course, email encrypted address, just 2 employees, only an annual turnover of 5,000 euros, for example, and just incorporated 2 days ago, of course, looks a little bit strange, you know, everything.
Exactly. And another interesting thing that we found analyzing our sample of companies is that some of these encrypted email addresses were repeated for different organizations operating in the same sector. For example, we found 19 email addresses that were repeated for different organizations, and 2 of them were shared by 9 and 7 companies respectively, all of them based in Brazil, all of them operating in the retail sector. So it's a really interesting coincidence. We focused to deepen the analysis. We focused on the email address shared by 9 companies in Brazil, and digging into these companies and analyzing the data that were available, like their physical address. We found that 7 out of 9 of these companies appear to operate from garages or private houses or building still under constructions that did not present any sign or indication of the commercial activity carried out in that place. On the right, you can see some images. These images are AI generated, but they are very, very similar to what we actually found investigating these companies. So you can say that a company that performs a retail activity, so that basically sells something to people, cannot operate in a place like the one presented in these images. We also tried to reorganize our sample into the industry of the companies, and we found that the trade sector, intended as wholesale and retail sector, is the most exposed to the use of encrypted email services. In fact, this sector accounts for 33% of the entire sample, which is quite interesting because according to many research on topics like infiltration of organized crime in the legal economy, the wholesale and retail sector is one of the most hit by this phenomenon because of the characteristics of this sector, especially if it is combined with other characteristics of the organization, which are really, really similar to the characteristics that Antonio presented to you before. So less than 10 employees. So we're talking about very small companies with a low annual turnover, companies that belong to a traditional or low-tech sector like the wholesale and retail, the involvement in local activities. So again, the retail, and activities concentrated in regions with a strong public support. Another quite interesting thing is that the use of encrypted email services is also very common in organizations that operate in the IT sector. And on our opinion, this may be motivated by the fact that due to their activities, these companies pay more attention on topics like data protection and information security. So one explanation might be that due to their industry, they are more prone to use this type of service.
Thank you, Lucrezia. So this is another interesting case study related to our research. In particular, we tried to investigate a specific encrypted email address that we have identified in the population. And in particular, is this one, we just put some stars in order to anonymize the email address, of course. And so we tried to perform some investigation in order to check maybe if this email address is related to some scams or to just some other individuals, entities, and so on. And so based on our investigation, we identified that this email address is shared by 3 Russian companies that are in the same sample. And at the same time is linked with the Russian company 1. So another company not in the sample, but also a Russian one. We performed some specific search, of course, on open sources on this Russian company 1, and we discovered that this Russian company 1 was already and also linked to another domain, another email address with a different domain not encrypted. That is this one, fstar.pro. That appears to be traceable to the company Russian 2, so a second one, which the Central Bank of the Russian Federation, but also the Italian National Commission for Company and Stock Exchange, la CONSOB, placed on blacklist for unauthorized financial operators. So in this case, we identified a critical third party in this case. So for example, if this third party tried to just make some business with some organizations, and the internal audit, the purchase department, the I don't know, forensic department, so on, tried to perform some integrity due diligence background check on this organization, of course, needed to identify, in this case, all these red flags. And in this case, are very critical because this encrypted email address is strictly linked with a Russian company 2, that also is a blacklisted company by Russian and Italian authorities. So it's something really, really red, really important. At the end, it's in English we said old wine in a new bottle. Is something that happened in the past, but just changed the skin. And why changed the skin? Because of technologies mainly. So in the past, but also nowadays, of course, the private investigators, for example, checks about the address of the company in order to understand if exists an office, if there are plans and so on. For an email address is almost the same, because the email address is just a virtual address, but nowadays is very important, because most of the communications, important communications, like a contract, like invoices and so on, just arrive to this address. And so this is the first point of communication with an organization. So of course, it's important to perform the analysis on the physical address, so in order to understand if the plant exists and so on. For example, in this photo, this photo is from a Bellingcat investigation about the UK's money laundering machine, and a lot of companies had a legal address in these mailbox shops, and of course, in this case, is something critical, because how is possible that for example, a logistic company that doesn't have any kind of different address related to warehouse, plant, and so on, garage, and so on, is just linked to this mailbox shop. So this is, of course, a critical point of view in terms of physical address. And so we need to perform the same exercise when we speak about virtual email address. So we need to perform the same kind of analysis, of course, in a different way with different methods and technologies, of course, but it's very important to introduce this kind of investigation in our day-to-day analysis. It's very important to perform, we think, and this is the main objective of our research.
Yeah, exactly. Like Antonio was saying, the fact that one of our suppliers is using an encrypted email address as their main point of contact doesn't mean per se that we cannot trust that supplier. But it is, we can talk about anomaly. It is an anomaly that we must address and investigate, because if it is related with other risk indicators, it can become an actual problem, an actual indicator of a risky situation, an indicator of lack of transparency of our supplier. You know, the tendency in every organization is that when a process is settled, the tendency is to remain straight to that process and performed it in our day-by-day activities without reviewing it. The important thing nowadays is that world is always evolving, technology is always evolving, so it is extremely important to review our processes in order to take into account risks and situations that we may not have been able to detect before, that may not have been important before, but now are important to investigate. So that is this is, I think, one of the most important key point of our research, is to keep our processes updated and be open-minded.
Thanks, Lucrezia.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that we can open our Q&A session. If someone have some question, just
let's open the door, let's say, for questions. If anyone wants to ask the speakers directly by raising your hand, or just in the Q&A area. So we prefer raising your hand. We want to hear your voice.
Yeah. We have one raised hand from Mohammed Al-Katani. Yeah.
Yes, Mohammed Al-Ghatani.
Nice to meet you, Mohammed.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. And my question is, if we received encrypted email address and we ignored it. What is the ramification for the ignorance?
I don't know if I understand well your question. So if you receive an email address and you ignore this, if you receive an email from an encrypted email address, and if you ignore it, or if you just...
without investigate.
Yeah, it's I think an important point, because as we said, it's important to investigate also in general the genuinity and the reliability of an email address. In particular, will be nice to maybe implement a hierarchy of email address. For example, the first place in order to understand the reliability and also the trustability of an email address is the certified electronic email, for example. The second one is an email address with business email. The third one, a generic email like Gmail and so on. And the fourth one, an encrypted email. So it means that encrypted email address is very risky in terms of use. So in general, if you ignore, of course, is something that it depends of your internal procedures, but of course is better in terms of best practice, and also based on the results of our research, to perform some further investigation in order to discover better who is behind and why need to use an encrypted email address. Is this the main point? I don't know if Lucrezia want to add something to this.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think that it also depends on the context. So one case is if you have a supplier or a third party that normally uses an encrypted email address, you should perform maybe some due diligence activities on this third party. If your question was related to the fact that you received a random encrypted email from someone, this is a different case. So it depends on the content of the email, what the email was saying and ask you to do, because it can be a trick for criminals or threat actors to hide their identity and perform some criminal activities.
I hope it's clear, Mr. Mohammed Al-Qahtani.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's clear
If you
now.
want to add any question also.
If it's possible, please.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, about if you can elaborate more about hide illicit criminal activity by using encrypted email address.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that we observed, and there is some research on this, is that like member of criminals or criminal organizations, let's say, in order to communicate among them, and in the meantime avoid eavesdropping from law enforcement, they use this type of services to keep their conversation secret. So they might be talking about, I don't know, drug trafficking. The next, I don't know, terrorist attack, and they do it through an encrypted email service or encrypted message service. It depends on the case. In order to avoid or reduce the probability to be intercepted by law enforcement, because law enforcement cannot get access to the content of the communication among the two criminals that are speaking. This is the main use case. And apart from that, there's also the fact that it is always a bit tricky and difficult to really understand the person behind an encrypted email account, because these type of services do not usually require any other authentication factor in order to register a new account. So for example, Gmail, if you try to register a new account, tries to verify your identity by asking you a phone number, for example, which is always, in most cases, related to a physical person. This type of services, for example, Proton, do not require this step. So basically, I can register many different accounts with many different usernames that have nothing in common with my name and surname. And it is difficult for you at that point to know that I am behind that email address.
Thank you. Do you want to add something, Mr. Antonio?
Yes, I think that Lucrezia was very clear about that. So mainly the point is that why you need to use an encrypted email address is something like that, it's the same if I will try to cover my physical address with some other kind of tricks, So it's the same. So the email address and the physical address of an organization is almost the same. And so for both of them, we need to try and we need to search for transparency. So it should be very transparent addresses. And for this reason, as Lucrezia said, is very, very important to investigate about the organization that use this kind of email address, but at the same time try to understand the reason why they should use this kind of encrypted email address, because of course in some cases it's very useful to use this kind of email address, for example in case of very sensitive information and so on, is very important. But we are speaking about primary email address, so pay attention. So it's something like that. I will introduce myself to you and I will wear a mask. So why I need to wear a mask in front of you? So I should be transparent with all of you. So I don't need to wear a mask. It's the same. So an organization that use as a primary email address an encrypted email address is not very transparent. So is this the main point? And we are looking for transparency every day. We should look for transparency every day.
Yeah, just to let you know, for example, platforms like Facebook or Meta applications, they do not accept a registration if you use a Proton mail account, because they consider Proton Mail as not trustable, not trusted. So if you try to register an account with a Proton Mail, it is really, really probable that they will ask you other information on yourself, like your ID card or a photo of yourself, something that can link that Proton Mail account with a physical person.
I can see a hand from Khalilul.
Yeah, we have a hand from Khalil, Mr. Khalil Rahman. Yes, Mr. Khalil.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. My question is, see now the cybersecurity tools, when encrypted emails is detected as suspicious email addresses, in that case, can we take it to consider or ignore those things? Sometimes it's a suspicion only, as a suspicious email from the untrusted email. It is detected by the cybersecurity tools. My question is, can we take into consideration into our analysis, or we should ignore this?
You mean if your automatic cybersecurity, let's say, email filters like spam
Yes,
filters and other
exactly.
things, they automatically block emails from encrypted email services.
Yes.
This might happen. Yeah,
Mhm.
it depends on your security policies in your organizations. If you need to further investigate the case or not, again, it depends on the type of of content of the mail. It might be like that the person is trying to verify if your account is still active, maybe to perform afterwards other type of cyber activities. It might be a phishing attempt. It actually depends on the type of email that you receive.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
Yes, also we have a question from Q&A area, if you guys could answer the question.
Is
Yeah.
the ultimate
Is-
responsibility on IT department or the user? I think, in my opinion, the analysis of a third party, it must be conducted by different departments accordingly. So we have the due diligence department, and we also have the cybersecurity or IT department that has to integrate the due diligence analysis in order to take into account maybe cyber risk indicators. So, for example, one thing that is often asked nowadays during due diligence activity is to check the cybersecurity posture of the company. So, in order to evaluate if my suppliers is reliable, not only in terms of financial aspects or more physical aspects, or topics like corruption, etc. But if it's also reliable from a cybersecurity point of view, because cyber attacks on supply chain are evolving and expanding, and so it is important to evaluate our suppliers also from that point of view in order to be protected. I don't know, Antonio, if you have to add
Yeah, I
something on
totally
this.
agree with Lucrezia. So it's important to analyze our third party at 360 degrees. So of course we should evaluate the corporate structure. So in order to identify the beneficial owner, we should of course identify the reputational standing. So we should evaluate the reputational standing. We should evaluate the economic and financial performance, of course, but at the same time, of course, we need to evaluate also a third party from a cyber point of view. Is very important. And from this point of view, of course, in some way, we should pay very attention to the email address, because of course is one of the first point of contact in the cyber world that we use to enter in contact with the third party. So yeah, I totally agree.
Thank you. Before we take the last question, if anyone wants to ask, let's let the people who attend the monthly meeting know that to download the certificate of the achievement, please click the link that's in the chat area. So yeah. Last question, if anyone to ask in Q&A area or by raising your hand. Okay, it looks there's no questions. Let's end the monthly meeting. In the end, Saudi Anti-Fraud Association would thank its members, anti-fraud professionals, and those interested for attending the monthly meeting. Also, I would like to thank Mr. Antonio and Ms. Laurizia for the amazing and informative presentation. Thank you so much. Again, thank you all for attending this monthly meeting. And we hope to see you again in another monthly meeting. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank you very much. Shukran.